fantasy pick. That is coming up, but we begin with a quarterback who was on pace to be the fantasy king of 2020. Dak Prescott on the mend and on the move. The Cowboys quarterback still recovering from an injury so severe, many said he'd never play another game in the NFL. Some said that if he did return, he could never possibly be the same player. But that's what others say. Here is what Dak says.
See, when I got hurt, I said I wasn't going to let anyone put a time on it because I'm a competitive guy, and I knew once I heard the 4 to 6, I was going to try to beat that. But I also knew I didn't have to be ready until fall. I'm right on pace. As I said, I'm healthy. If we had to play a game now, I feel like I can go out there, obviously, with the protection of my O-line and making sure that I'm not getting beat up the whole game. I could go out there and be very successful, start the game, finish the game, and not even worry about the leg.
Great to hear that mindset from Dak Prescott. Great to welcome Super Bowl champion Michael Robinson, our analytics expert Cynthia Freeland, our NFL executive Mark Ross. Guys, great to be here with you. And Rob, let's start here with the fact that Dak was on a record-setting pace in terms of passing offense before he got hurt a year ago. Without him, big struggles for the Dallas Cowboys. So now, what does that tell you? That he thinks he is ready, by the way, to play in a game right now if he had to. What does that tell you about how the Cowboys offense should look this season?
Well, Rhett, it tells me that they should not be cautious with Dak Prescott. If he feels like he's comfortable enough to be out there, they should open up this offense as much as they possibly can. I think, and I know this may sound a little funny, guys, but I think Dak Prescott getting hurt in the long run may have been a blessing for him. And I know Dak usually like, Mike, Rob, what are you talking about? I mean that by saying the Dallas Cowboys was able to play football games and experience life without Dak Prescott, and look what happened, right? They still won some games, but look what happened. They were not the same team, okay? So Dak Prescott gained some leverage throughout all of that. So to me, his biggest hurdle is mentally. Can he stand in the pocket with a bunch of bodies falling around him and stand strong in the pocket and deliver the football? So offensively, I come up with easy plays so that he can just get completions. This is a passing league, and we already know there's going to come a time and place in this season where Dak Prescott's going to have to will this team to a win with his arms. So I get it cracking. As soon as the season starts up, open this offense up, get Dak Prescott, your best player, going early.
And Rob, I agree. And mentally, for a player with NFL players, that's the harder part sometimes with their injuries. He's done the rehab. The doctors say you're okay, but he's got to get out there and perform. But I like the Cowboys' offensive chances. I think they'll have no problem. I think they'll roll similar to what they were. They have Tyron Smith and Zach Martin coming back, two of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, as well as La'el Collins. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to have a breakout year this year for the Cowboys to become their #1 option. But let's address the defense, because we know that's going to come up. I think the defense will be much improved from last year. They can't get worse, where they set franchise records for ineptitude. 8 of their 11 draft picks were on defense, including Micah Parsons, the first-round pick out of Penn State. Dan Quinn is there now. And let's not forget, the offensive that they have to go up against in the NFC East aren't that formidable. Washington, Philly, and the Giants were 25th, 26th, and 31st in the NFL last year. So I like the Cowboys' chances because of their prolific offense, and their defense will be much improved.
Well, one of the X factors that I'm looking at that will help Dak Prescott and this offense, it's Ezekiel Elliott and the run game. We saw Zeke last season perform in the 30s in terms of yards after the catch and yards after contact. This is not a good scenario. Obviously, the O-line being healthy does make a big difference. But if you get Zeke in there and you can control the pace of the game, and then you don't need that defense while they're acclimating, they're very young, they're going to make some mistakes. If you get that offensive going on the run, and then you have Dak fold in the passes, that's really the best recipe for success. Control the pace. Don't ask Dak to throw for 400 billion yards each game.
So that's in contrast, Mike, to what you were saying there a little bit with Cynthia bringing back the run game and noticing, look, that while that was a record-setting pace to start the season last year for Dak, throwing it all over the place, they weren't winning a ton of games. Sub-500 record at that point. So how do you balance that out, Mike?
Well, it's the defense, and Mark referred to, Dan Quinn being there. It's kind of like what the defense they had a few years ago when they were serviceable with Chris Richard, right? And you've wondered why, how come Chris Bashard just kind of fell off the face of the earth? He didn't get a head coaching job. He didn't become the defensive coordinator with Dallas, but they were playing well. And with Dan Quinn coming into the building, now guys can go back to their natural positions. And I don't know if people truly understand how hard it is to go from a 4-3 defense, where a defensive end is a rusher, he's got his hand in the dirt, to now a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence being in a 3-4. Now he's standing up, possibly dropping into the flat and things like that. So it was a whirlwind for this defense last year, and obviously the global pandemic didn't make anything that much easier.
Well, one thing we can all agree on, big test for Dak and Dallas to start this season, taking on the champs in Tampa to open 2021. Speaking of champs, how about Cowboys Super Bowl champion Emmitt Smith teaming up with First Lady Jill Biden here to encourage vaccination? Look, they say that we're getting to the third and fourth quarter here. Stand up for the person to your right and left. They visited a vaccine clinic in Dallas, encouraged the community and the Conrad Charger High School football team to get vaccinated. Elsewhere around the NFL, of course, one of the biggest free agent acquisitions this offseason coming when the Titans signed edge rusher Bud Dupree to a 5-year, $82 million deal. Dupree 8 sacks in 11 games for Pittsburgh last year before tearing the ACL in his right knee. And he's making good progress on that rehab.
Well, just training hard every day right now, man. ACL recovery rehab, man, it's been one of the most progress things I have dealt with so far. Each week you see different levels of progress. You see different things change in your body. So, I'm working hard to be back, as soon as I can. But, it's up to the coaching staff at the end of the day, like when they want me to be on the field and how comfortable they feel with me coming out the injury.
One of the biggest acquisitions there for the Titans on defense. The biggest acquisition, period, of course, Julio Jones coming over in the trade from Atlanta recently to beef up a pass game that already features A.J. Brown and a run game, of course, led by Derrick Henry. Okay, now back here with Michael Robinson and Mark Ross. Rob, I'll start with you again here. How far can this Titans team go now with the addition of Julio Jones?
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy. We just showed that Bud Dupree saying what he said. I think the pass rush and that defense is going to have a lot to say about that. But at the end of the day, when you look at this Tennessee Titans offense, you have Julio Jones, you got A.J. Brown on the other side. I just hope that Todd Downing, new offensive coordinator, I hope he doesn't change the identity of this team. I think it's going to be very easy for them now all of a sudden to start to lean on Ryan Tannehill's arm. Yes, he's been a very efficient passer, but I think the reason why he's been an efficient passer is because he had that grown man in the backfield and Derrick Henry to hand the football off to, force defenses to the line of scrimmage, and now you're playing one-on-one catch on the outside to a guy like A.J. Brown. And so, yes, Julio Jones has to get his touches, but Mark, I just hope that they don't change what this team is from an identity standpoint, because it makes playing defense easier, it makes coaching easier, makes playing quarterback position easier too.
100%, and Rob, and you hope, because Todd Downing was on the staff, that he knows, hey, this was our identity, this is how we win games, feeding King Henry and having Ryan Tannehill come in there and make plays at key times, not having Ryan Tannehill carry the team and splashing in Derrick Henry. But the concern, as you mentioned, I think they are the favorites in the AFC South. That the culture only really challenged, and that is if Carson close to how Carson Wentz was when he was at his peak. If we see the Carson Wentz of the last few years, it's clearly the Titans in this division. But when you stack them up against the Kansas Cities and the Buffaloes, I don't think they're at that level. I think they're more in the group with Cleveland, who I think will be strong. Baltimore, look out for the Chargers. But once it comes playoff time, as you mentioned, Rob, is that defense going to be good enough? The two biggest additions were Bud Dupree, who's coming off an ACL, and also Caleb Farley, the corner from Virginia Tech out of the first round this year. He has back injuries, back concerns that had him fall in the draft. So their two major additions on the defense have major injury concerns, and I think that will be the problem for the Titans when it comes to playoff time, playing against the better teams there.
Yeah, they've gotten close the last two seasons into the postseason. AFC Championship game lost in 19. Certainly feels like Julio Jones can take them a little bit closer to that ultimate prize. All right, guys, some new money to be handed out around the league today as the Saints and All-Pro right